Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode on my channel. I'd like to always say at the beginning of every episode of why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I otherwise couldn't say if I wasn't incognito. Okay. Um, okay. So every episode is going to kind of lead to the next. So if there's information, if you're only watching this video, if there's information that is not very clear, you need to go back and watch the other episodes. It's just because that's how sequence of life goes, right? One leads to the other, leads to the other. Um, okay, so in the last episode, I was at the Robert thing, goodbye. Okay. But I had mentioned that I had this brilliant idea in which I was I was it's just so ridiculous now. I was going to go into these newfangled AOL chat rooms that had just come about because this was 97 just come about, and I'm going to learn all this medical jargon and come back, and Robert and I are going to live happily ever after in some sterile world. Okay. So I thought, I kind of thought that, oh, okay, they're going to talk about medical things. Maybe something that he mentioned will be relevant, and I'll take it back and I'll have some kind of conversation. Please, I'm a girl. Okay. We like to hang out with boys. So, I'm just thinking about that. And yeah. So while I was in AOL chat rooms, I found them to be very interesting in many aspects. But one of the things I befriended a what was he, a radiologist. So I think it was him that told me. I said, If you could impart any advice to me, what would you say?" He goes, "Don't ever take anybody seriously on here." I was like, "Okay, why would I?" Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, why would I? So I'm still, I'm now I found other chat rooms to be with and to go in, and I started talking to people and everything like that. There's somewhere in there, I was back in the medical chat room because I like the dialogue was funny or people were funny, and you start to get to know people. So you're like, oh, my friend is in there. And then Lance. Okay. That's not his real name, but that's the name he went by. Okay. No, no, he didn't wind up to be a scammer. It wasn't that glamorous. But it's like when people have the name I don't know, John David, and then everybody calls the guy Davy. Like, it's not really his name, but it's part of his name, but it's a nickname for his name. That's kind of how it was. So we just started to talk. I don't remember really how it went down, but we started to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. So he was in another, I'm not gonna say the state or anything, but, he was in another time zone. Okay, that's how far away he was from me. But we talked and talked and talked and talked. Um, Let me back up. Um, um, there's going to be an episode entitled John, okay? Because that gets in here somewhere too. Which is that's an interesting one. It's just and again, another bizarre date, another bizarre situation. I'm not really sure, but so we started to talk, and now it became all encompassing. It became I was now in my first semester of graduate school or master's program, and he was just finishing up residency. So he was looking for a fellowship, which if you want to go look it up, just go look it up. It's not really a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but I'm not discussing that part of him. Um, so we started to talk, and we started to talk day and night, night and day. I mean, and he revealed a lot of things about himself that were obvious red flags. And he knew they were red flags. And basically, he was like, It's your problem if you continue to talk to me." Okay. And I'll get into what those things were. So his whole life was medicine, as Roberts, as all the other guys out there. His whole life was medicine, and he was kind of estranged from his mother. His father had died, and he seemed to have been closer to his father than he was to his mother. His mother seemed to be cold and distant. Okay, a characteristic that he was well equipped for medicine for with. Um, so he had revealed a lot. Um, a lot of his life, right? And I revealed a lot of mine. And for both of us, this was a safe situation, right? There could not be any physical intimacy because we were so far away. And which the reason for that is in other episodes. Um, and he could not get technically emotionally close to anybody. So he was safe in his red flags, and I was safe in my red flags or a dysfunction. So he would call me now. It, he had to like sleep over at the hospital a lot, and he would say he said what did he say? He said we have a saying in our field. He goes, "What's the difference between a resident and a pile of shit?" Any answers? Any answers? You try not to step on the pile of shit. So meaning that they're it's like cheap labor because they're not really students. They're beyond that, but they're not really full-fledged. He was studying for his boards and all of that stuff and the fellowship. So they work you. They work you and I guess you could choose to sleep there or maybe you had to. I didn't really get into it. I just knew that there were many nights that he was at the hospital and he would be calling me, we would be talking all night. And then at some point, I'd be like, I think you need to get some sleep. But he seemed to really be enjoying this, like meaning our company. He was enjoying my company. I was enjoying his. He probably revealed to me more than he ever revealed to anybody else because looking back now, I know that he was unable to be uh emotionally vulnerable, emotionally available. And what's interesting is he told me that. He did not know what that meant. Now, this time I was 24, so I was a little bit older. It was the next year. So this was 1998. That's the first time I had ever heard that term. Didn't know what that was. I was like emotionally unavailable. Then you just avoid people. Like, if you're trying to build like a relationship or you're trying to have more than a friendship and you're not available, you don't start something you can't finish, right? If you are unable to do that, that means you are not equipped to be a good partner. And you're equipped not to be a good partner. I didn't really know what that meant, okay? Um, it was only years later that that term started to be used, and then it reminded me of I was like, "Oh, yeah, Lance had called himself that." And, So we got to know each other, and at this point, um, we had to change like our phone plans, our cell phone plans, in order because again we were talking on cell phones. We were uh, we were talking on house phones. So it wasn't like it as we know it now, which all everything is just one charge, right? Maybe international now, I don't even know. But basically, if you called Alaska or whatever, it was going to be the same as Ohio, okay? Like something like that. But it wasn't like that back then. So everything was um it cost. Anyway, we got that figured out somehow. And then the closer we got, the more distant he became, and I did not understand it. I thought, and I think a lot of people, especially women, but I think a lot of people can relate to this, okay? The closer we got, we were like laughing a lot. We were now talking about meeting. Um we were starting to go down a relationship road, okay? At one time, he had said something like, he said something like, "Yeah, they don't really pay me to call my girlfriend from the hospital." It was something like, "I need to call you back or whatever because, they don't really pay me to talk to my girlfriend at the hospital." And I remember that took me back. Girlfriend? Why don't I know about this? Sorry. Why don't I know about this? Like, are we boyfriend and girlfriend? What is our status? Now, today, I would be like, are we doing this or not? Like, is this happening? Do you have any feelings? I have any feelings. Don't waste my time. Right. But I knew how skittish he was about emotions. I know that he over and over again said, he was very obvious of what his issues were. And, but I just didn't take the clues, and it wasn't that, "Oh, I wanted to see what I wanted to see." My thinking was that if you're unable to be in a relationship, why are you starting a relationship, right? But even though he was very solitary, right? Everything was the friggin' hospital, everything, right? I had accepted that, it wasn't like it was another woman or something or, whatever. So I didn't that didn't bother me, because I knew that that was his everything, right? But I don't know, like he was he had enough emotion and enough feelings to know that, oh, being alone, this doesn't feel good. Okay. But he just wouldn't look and about towards himself and change that.